Hello and welcome to the Flex podcast. I'm Anna and this is part 2 of a 2-part series talking about strength and muscle mass and all that jazz and what we can do to maximize the gains. And that makes me sound wanky when I say that. But basically, if you're investing your well-earned rest time away from work into training and looking after yourself, that is wonderful. And I am sure you would like to make the most of that time and actually get the results that you're after. So that's what this is for. I want you to get out what you want in relation to the effort that you're putting in. I don't want you to go to the gym for an hour 3 times a week and not get what you want because you're bothering to invest your time. So let's talk about that. I'm assuming you've listened to the strength one that I did about the actual training side of things. And so I'm not going to talk about that at all in this one because that was long. It was half an hour and you've done that. So this is going to be more about the nutrition, self-care side of it. That you're like, oh yeah, I've heard all of this shit before. I'm sure you have, but I'm also sure that you're probably not doing it because none of us do it perfectly. So there is always something, even when I'm talking to you about stuff, there are things that I think, yeah, you do that though. So get a fucking grip. So there's things that I do that, and I remind myself about it. So that's not me being a smug prick. So stick with this, even if you think, yeah, I know all this stuff. But you just remind yourself, probably not doing it all, so what can I do to change stuff? The first thing is that we've talked about all this great training that we're doing. We talked about the rest sets on the last podcast. This one I want to talk to you about rest days, so your recovery. You must have them away from lifting weights. So cardio, depending on the output, also counts. So if you're doing really hard cardio where your pulse is really coming up and you feel tired after, whatever that means to you, then you should schedule some days off of that as well. So it isn't just that maybe you're training 3 times a week and you're doing 3 cardio sessions. So then you're ending up with 1 day on the weekend off. That might be fine for you and that might be enough for you to recover. I would say that for the vast majority of people, you do not need a rest from walking ever. So you should still be walking and doing all of that stuff. Maybe not a full incline, hill climb, going up the mountain on a daily basis. You would need a rest from that. But getting in your 7,500 steps around the high street or whatever, you don't need a rest from that. So just to clarify, you do need a rest from lifting weights because that's when your body goes away to make the adaptations. Cardio will make you tired and also your heart and lungs are doing exactly the same thing and they're becoming fitter and stronger at pumping all your juices around you. So they probably need a little day off to make that happen as well. So what I would suggest is that everyone has at least 1 rest day a week, depending on the way that you recover, the way that you look after yourself with the rest of the things that we're about to talk about, and how stressful your job is, all that kind of thing, and how intense your training sessions are. You may need slightly more rest than other people. So I generally have 1 full day's rest, probably 2 per week, because otherwise I feel fried. I lift weights 4 times a week minimum, 5 times, which is my optimal, which probably happens 50% of the time. Then I do 2 cardio sessions a week, plus little runs across the week, which never exceed longer than 10 minutes. So they're all quite short, but so over the week, that probably builds up to 3 cardio sessions. That means that I do cardio and resistance on the same day, and I always do my resistance training first. That's my priority. It's slightly higher risk of injury. I want to really focus on my muscle mass and the way that I move. I need to feel fresh for it. Therefore, resistance training is first, and I do the cardio after. Sometimes that might not be the case. For example, if the cardio is your priority, that would be first. So if you're trying to increase your fitness levels or you want to do a race or whatever, that might happen before. But in general, we probably put the resistance training first unless there is a reason why we can't. So we're having these rest days, which is going to help with our recovery. we also need to go to sleep and get some really good quality sleep. How much we need is dependent on the person, but the average person needs 7 to 8 hours a night. Now, we know how it feels when you haven't quite had enough sleep and you still feel really tired, even though, you know, you think, oh, I've had at least 5 hours, can't be that bad. I'm gonna say, if you feel tired when you wake up frequently, probably there is something going wrong. Whether we are having caffeine too late in the day, so we're not getting in our deep sleep, or finding it hard to fall asleep. We might be waking up, you know, that perimenopausal wake up time, so we might need to look at our sleep hygiene. Maybe we're looking at different ways that we can help ourselves get back to sleep. Maybe there's some supplements we need to try, like magnesium. Maybe we need to get off our phone. Maybe we need to try and de-stress a little bit. So maybe we're drinking alcohol regularly, which again affects your ability to get into your deep sleep. Maybe we are doing things that make us feel stressed before we go to bed, so then we're unable to get to sleep as quick as we would like. So we're looking at our sleep hygiene to maximize the amount of sleep we're going to have. We probably will have a regular wake time, and that will help us get to sleep at the same time every day. So pretty much every day, apart from Sunday, my alarm goes off at 6. I like to get up and get all my housework done, all my stuff done before I start work at 7:30 or 8. So I like to have that time, and it feels really nice to have that time to myself. Getting up before 6 makes me feel sad. My boyfriend gets up at 5 or 4:45 because he has so many things he wants to do in the morning. That sounds like my worst nightmare. So everyone is different, but you need to work out your own structure. But we do probably need to pay a bit more attention to the amount of sleep that we're getting. Okay, then we're thinking about our food. We all know that because we want to get maybe a bit more muscly or a bit stronger, whatever, our muscle is our priority. So we want to make sure that as long as we have healthy kidneys, 2 of them, we are increasing our protein intake to an appropriate level for someone who's exercising and using their body. We have higher protein needs because we are training and we are doing all this hard stuff that we talked about, like trying to progressively overload the muscle. We must recover well. We want our body to make the gains, so we increase our protein level to something that is appropriate for us. We're well hydrated. Dehydrated people feel like a bag of shit. They train like a bag of shit and they recover like a bag of shit. So you will make sure that you're hydrated, and don't be doing that, but I just can't drink at work. Why not? Are you handcuffed to a prisoner somewhere and you're not allowed to lift a bottle to your lips? I feel like that most employers these days are not going to be very happy if they think that they're not looking after you properly, because they could be in an employment tribunal. So not allowing you to drink or have a wee whilst you're working in most jobs, unless you're like driving a lorry or something, obviously, and you can't wee in it. I don't know how you'd manage that. In most jobs would be quite a crucial part of their care of their workforce. So I feel like it is quite an easy suggestion to be like, I can have a water bottle here or whatever. So we're going to try and keep ourselves hydrated. We're going to eat a varied diet, and we're going to try to get the majority of our nutrients, including our protein, through whole foods. That doesn't mean that processed foods are the enemy. They can be helpful in situations where we are unable to hit our macronutrient guidelines from whole foods. For example, if we don't have any time, we forgot to put our food in the fridge, we didn't bring our packed lunch, we are rushing from work immediately to our classes or to the gym or to work out at home. Convenience foods like protein bars or whatever can be really helpful. So they're not the enemy, but we're going to try to get the vast majority of our nutrients from unprocessed food in some shape, way or form. M&S is really good for this. I'm sure Waitrose is as well. Tesco's and Sainsbury's are getting much better. So you'll see a lot more like natural fast foods coming up because they know that's what we want. So even things like eggs are quite a good fast food. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be that we're immediately reaching into the Mars protein bar section. For example, we're going to try to get our protein in through natural sources where we can. We want to eat loads of veggies. for the most part, and we want to get our carbohydrates in around our workouts. Where we get our protein in is probably more beneficial to get that in spread out in chunks across the day. However, if you choose to fast and then get it in one big chunk, that might be fine for you. Some people's digestion might find that tricky, other people may not, and they may actually feel great on that. So we have to work around what your body likes, but we do still need to hit our protein intake, and for most people, it is easier to do that with 3 meals across the day. That doesn't mean that is the only way of doing it, but it does tend to be easier because otherwise you've got to eat quite a lot of meat or whatever in one sitting, which for a lot of people feels less palatable. You decide, it's up to you. The other thing we might look at in order to increase our performance and get the most bang for our buck is supplementing with creatine monohydrate, which you can get in tablet and powder form, and then you can dissolve the powder in your water. We need to make sure that we're well hydrated when we're taking this, and most people can take it. Again, we would need to check any interactions of any supplements we ever take with any health conditions or medication that we may be on, or any other herbal supplements that we're taking. You do that easily by checking in Google, and it normally comes up with reports on interactions of drugs and supplements. But creatine monohydrate can be really helpful for pushing up to 15% increase in your performance, which, as you can imagine, especially once you've been training for a bit, can be really helpful. It's also really helpful for things like your brain health, which obviously as we all age can become a little bit more of a thing, maybe in terms of performance, but also in terms of like our mental health as well. So there's lots of testing on creatine being done. And most of it is thus far positive, so I would have a little look into it. We want to make sure that we have good energy levels when we are going to train, and to do that we're obviously looking at our nutrition, our sleep pattern, and generally the management of our stress levels. Some of us need to learn to leave stress alone a bit more. Some people can get really kind of caught up in a cycle of feeling stress and being stressed by small things that happen. So for example, seeing things as, well, I'm having an awful day, someone cut me up at the lights, the kettle didn't work at work when I got there, so-and-so forgot that I had a meeting, what a shit day, I feel so stressed about it. When you look at those 3 things, unless that meeting was about the life of someone else, those 3 things really don't matter. They are really irrelevant, they are moderately irritating, but they have really no impact on our life, our livelihood, or our ability to be alive. They are really insignificant. So sometimes we need to remind ourselves that just because we're having a stressful time in general doesn't mean that everything that happens to us is stressful. So it's trying to separate those 2 things, which is very difficult if you're having a really rocky time, but it's quite an important part of being able to separate yourself from real things that are happening to you versus bits of annoying shit that might be going on, and then adding onto that stress load. When we're able to separate this and shake the things off that don't matter, I'm not saying to shake off the things that do, but if we're able to shake off some of these things that don't matter, that can make it a lot easier for us to have the energy and the mental capacity to do the things that we know will eventually reduce our stress levels as well, like training and exercise. The effort that it takes to do those when we feel stressed or our energy levels are low can feel massive, but exercising and looking after our body has a direct impact on our health, our mental health, our stress levels, our happiness, all of those things. So it is a vicious circle that if we don't find the time and the energy to look after ourselves, we probably won't feel any better. So that's what we need to have a look at. Another thing that we can look at is how we're showing up for ourselves in terms of fitting in these workouts, and how much we lie to ourselves about whether or not we are honestly fitting in what we think we could, or if we are showing up to do it. When you come to do a workout, whether that's at home in the gym or at a class, for example, ask yourself, how many times have you shown up with a negative feeling about that workout before you get there? Whether or not it's, I'm tired, I don't know how this is going to go. I wasn't going to come, I made myself, this is going to be shit. I wasn't very good at this last week. I really don't want to be here, I don't know why I've come. Anything like vaguely negative, which is all very valid, by the way, but how we show up can have a direct impact, and especially that first chunk of the workout. Over time, you will realise that everyone feels like that when they're going through life. What people who have been training a long time get really good at is going, oh, shit day, oh God, I really need to get in the gym. Because they know it's going to make them feel better. They look at it as their place to come and de-stress and re-energize and get that feeling. And that is the only difference, is how they see it. So they generally come in going, oh my God, I'm so tired today. This warm-up's going to feel like shit, and then I'm going to be bam, and I'm going to be in it. So it's the way that you talk to yourself about the stuff that you've got to do can have a massive impact on how you find, especially that first chunk of time in the workout. Now, that matters slightly less if your workout's an hour and it takes you 15 minutes to crank up into it. But if your workout's going to be 20 minutes and the first 15 minutes you spend telling yourself how shit this is and that you don't really want to do it, that obviously means that you're only getting 5 minutes of actually enjoying it and having a nice time. So these are things that we want to try to just change the way that we talk to ourselves. We all have shit days. Sometimes I don't really want to train either. The only difference is I know I will be better than I feel that I'm going to be. I know that it doesn't matter if I'm not great as long as I show up and do it, because I just need to put the reps in. I know that every single thing that is generally shit in my day is made better by me being near a weight. It makes me happy. Dancing makes me happy. Even when I'm tired and run down and feel really knackered, there is rarely a point where I think, I wish I didn't have to do that. Because I will always know that I'm going to feel better straight after. I'm just putting some hand cream on, sorry. So don't think to yourself, no one ever feels like this. And I don't want you to feel like I'm trying to boss you around or anything, or be like, oh, well, I don't feel like that. So that's not the case. It's just over time, the way you think about it changes. And I think being aware of that can be really, really helpful when you are starting to kind of talk to yourself and get engaged in these workouts, is to try to change the headspace that you think about it, rather than, oh, this is something I have to do, which obviously it certainly feels like that at the beginning of starting a training journey. Let's get excited about it and be like, I am seeing the results of this. I want to carry on. I'm excited to go today. I'm going to bring it, and change the way that you talk to yourself about it. Another thing, change the way that you talk to yourself, full stop. So a lot of people talk themselves out of a lot of things. So I see it a lot. Even with people that maybe haven't come to my resistance classes, or I see people a lot in the gym on a daily basis, that they would not be capable of doing that. Women of their age only do this type of exercise. So there's a big, and I'm not slagging off any of these things, by the way, but we have this big thing that women go to Pilates, they do a bit of cardio, they do some light weights, and they go home. Especially for some age groups, that still feels like the thing that women are capable of doing, especially when they may be starting to do exercise a bit later on in life, can still have this headspace of, oh, well, yeah, no, as long as I can do a bit, that's enough. And sure, you do whatever you want to do, but that isn't what you're capable of. There's two different things. And what you are capable of is so big that you don't even know what it is. It's so vast, your capacity and your body's capacity to change at any age, that you don't even know what that number, what that lift could be, what that weight could be, what that exercise might be. You can't even comprehend it, because your body is so incredible that where you're at is so far away from your body's potential, especially if you haven't been exercising very long or you're just starting. So I don't mean that sounds like a really weird thing to say, actually. I didn't mean it that. I meant it in a positive way, in that we are often, and especially women, so down on ourselves, like, oh yeah, but you know, I'm a girl, so I'm not going to be as strong as my partner, or you know, women of my age don't do that kind of thing, or I've never done this, haven't done this for 50 years, so if I start now, I'll never be that good at it, or I'll never be that strong. Not true. None of those things are true. Your body is an incredible piece of adaptive machinery that will literally change based on the stimulus that you give it. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes dedication. Yes, you have to be consistent. Yes, you will have to train around an injury. Yes, you will have to train around being sick. Yes, you will have to give yourself a massive kick in the mindset and get in there and get it done. You will have to do all these things, but your body will adapt to the stimulus that you're showing it. And whether you are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 or 90, your body can continue to feel like a beast in this time. We just have to put the time in to make that happen. And I know it's an investment of time. I do it as well. I totally get it. And it is way more an investment for you if you've got a family and you don't work in a gym. I also get that. But I personally think that even if, you know, the way and the time that we might have to invest in training might be different amounts, and that differs from person to person. I don't have children and I work in a gym. It is easy for me to allocate 5 hours a week to training in the gym. That isn't a problem because I'm here anyway for the most part, although I do come in extra days to train, but never mind. You may not have that time available to you. You might have available to you 2 hours or 2 lots of 45 minutes. The amount of time that you have available to you doesn't matter. What we need to do is utilize that time and talk ourselves up, big ourselves up. In those 2 45-minute workouts, you can make magical shit happen. Believe me, I train people twice a week. The results are insane at every age. Twice a week is a good amount of time in the gym. Yes, will it take longer to get to a particular goal than it might do if you train 5 times a week? Yes, maybe not, depending on what your recovery pattern is like. It might take a bit longer. Are you still going to get there? Yes. Is it still worth it? Yes. Are you still going to feel a fuck ton better than you would do if you didn't do it? 100% yes. So please don't underestimate what you are capable of. Whether you're listening to this at 30 years old or 40 or 50 or 60, 70, 80, your body is incredible. It will do the things that you ask of it. You just need to give it time and space to be able to do that. And you need to get assistance. If you're working around an injury and you're like, coming to me and saying, oh, I'm going to start resistance training, but I've got a shoulder injury of 10 years that I've done absolutely fuck all about and never asked anyone about. Someone once told me this happened, but I can't really remember what it was, and I don't think I did my rehab. We might need to get some assistance with that. We have to look at ourselves as this athlete in making, that we need some self-care and need some attention to be able to get the things done that we want to get. It isn't impossible. We just need to give ourselves some love in order to be able to get there. Okay, I am going to stop talking, but I really hope that this makes you think a little bit about what you're willing to put into. I'm just checking the time. Great. What you're willing to put into looking after yourself. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying, oh yeah, I need you to do 10 hours a week of everything. But if you can make some of this feel like your social life or your own time, it's going to make a massive difference to you becoming stronger and getting the results that you want. And the way that we talk to ourselves about the effort we're willing to put in, both to get there and inside of that session, in terms of the things we talked about in the last podcast, are massive precursors for the results that we're going to get. So think about it. And I will talk to you very soon for more stuff where I'll probably get this passionate about and ramble even further. Have a wonderful week and thank you for joining me.